Chair recognizes himself for questions. Mr. Gross, the Florida incident, is that one of the incidents that Mr. LaHood was referencing that you believed was inadvertent?
I believe all of the incidents that have been reported were identified where the individual inadvertently downloaded the material.
And how many incidents has that been?
I believe we've reported 7.
7, and they were all accidental?
Out of the 7, we had, I believe it was 5 individuals that were retiring, and I believe the other individuals were term employees, and they were coming to the end of their term.
Were all of 7 of these those that you describe as not very computer literate, or?
Yes, sir. I would say that these individuals downloaded the information in an attempt to take their personal information prior to departure.
But they had access to sensitive information, even though they were not, quote unquote, computer literate.
Well, the information they had legitimate access to was required for them to perform their day-to-day duties. Their duties continued up until the day they left employment with the FDIC.
So it's common practice to allow personnel to download information from the FDIC official server.
Prior to my arrival, we did utilize mobile media, and individuals could download information to those devices. We've since put in place capability to prevent the downloading of information to mobile devices.
So is it accepted practice to allow personal use of the government computers? If they were taking personal information, then obviously they're allowed to use them for personal.
Policy does allow de minimis use of the personal computer, yes, sir.
Do any of the employees in the FDIC, yourself or any others, use personal email to conduct official business?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
None at all. Regarding the Florida incident, the data breach management team, did they give you a recommendation on whether this was a breach?
The data breach management team is a group of representatives across the organization. The Inspector General sits on that group. It's not a voting body, it's a consensus body, and they do provide a recommendation. And I believe from the Florida incident that they did recommend that it was a breach, but we did also indicate it was a low-level breach.
Okay. Well, let me read from you an email which you were just provided a copy. This was from the former CIO, Christopher Farrow, to you, and regarding the Florida incident, and just item number 7, only you can declare this incident a breach. You have not done so. The DBMT has only recommended that this is a breach. We're waiting on you to declare this a breach. I'm bringing attention to this email that was provided to us by the IG. And it was sent to you on November 30th, 2015. And in the subject line, it refers to the October 2015 Florida incident that you informed this committee of. And the subject line says, "Action required, Florida incident." As we've discussed here, the body of the email concerns the handling of the incident completely within the scope of the documents requested by this committee. The IG provided us this document, but you did not, sir. Now, how is not including this email with the documents you provide us being responsive to the committee's request?
Sir, I believe every effort was made to be responsive to your request. If there's needs for additional information, as I said, I stand ready to do so. I believe this document right here is summarized in our response in the incident management.
But sir, did the committee's request ask for summaries, or did it ask for the documents? I believe our request was for all documents, not summaries of documents, but documents.
Sir, I believe our response to the committee's request was comprehensive. We made an active effort to provide a comprehensive response to this committee.
But evidence that you have in front of you is that it was not comprehensive.
I don't know for sure if this was included in the overall submission to the committee, sir.
And it was not, but the IG did provide this to us. Are you aware, sir, that actively, by not providing this, you are actively obstructing this committee's investigation?
Sir, I believe our submission to you was comprehensive. Every effort was made for it to be comprehensive.
But, sir, it wasn't comprehensive if we are receiving documents from the Inspector General that are clearly relating to these incidents that we are investigating, but you did not provide them.
Well, I didn't provide all the documents that you received, sir. These documents came from a variety of different officers within the corporation.
But, sir, you were the addressee on the email with this document, so clearly you did have this document. And it would have been your responsibility to provide this in response to our request for all documents.
I believe that this would have been included in the incident response because this document speaks to what's summarized in the incident report.
But again, sir, the committee did not ask for summaries, we asked for documents. And are you aware that obstructing Congress is a violation of federal law?
I'm fully aware of that, sir. I'm a prior law enforcement officer.
Okay.
As I said, we made every effort to be responsive. I believe what we provided was a representation of the production. We made every effort to be quite exhaustive in our response to this committee. As I said, we stand ready to provide any additional information that you deem warranted.
Well, I thank you for that, but I would prefer that we get these initially and not have to go back and get any more. Let me read directly from the correspondence this committee sent to you. It says, all documents and communications referring or relating to the security incident. All documents and communications. We didn't ask for summaries. We asked for all documents and communications, which you failed to provide. Let me ask you another question. We'll shift our direction of questioning here. Sir, if a bank were to have the incidents happen to them, an employee walks out with a USB drive containing 10,000 pieces of PII of their customers, and they followed the same procedure that you followed by not reporting it to the FDIC, what would the FDIC's actions be to that bank?
I can't speak to that, sir. That's speculative.
I would like to get the answer to that because I don't think it would be following the same procedures that you're holding yourself accountable to. Maybe, Mr. Gibson, do you know what action would be taken to a bank?
Sir, I think that question would need to be answered by the supervisors.
Okay.
I'm afraid I can't.
I did pose that a question to a banker yesterday, and I will get a formal response of what he believes would have had the action that would have been taken. Mr. Gross, it appears the FDIC has a history of cybersecurity breaches that goes beyond what has been made public to date. I personally have a problem after 30 years of being in the information systems business that 7 repeated incidents are all inadvertent. But let's move on to other incidents. Is it true that an advanced persistent threat, quote, advanced persistent threat was able to penetrate the FDIC computer systems in August 2011?
I believe that's correct, sir.
Okay. Is it true that FDIC employees' computers were accessed by a foreign entity without their knowledge?
I believe you're speaking from an Inspector General report, sir, and that I think would be best discussed by the Inspector General. That document has sensitive information in it.
Mr. Gibson, do you have any information that you can share with us?
If you want to ask me a question, let's see. I don't see why not.
Is it true the FDIC employees' computers were accessed by a foreign entity without their knowledge, dating back to August 2011?
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Gross, is it true that the chairman of the FDIC's own computer was accessed by this foreign entity?
Sir, I have reviewed that document. I believe what you're stating is included in the report, but I just became familiar with that document yesterday. I think Mr. Gibson would be best positioned to respond.
Mr. Gibson, can you respond? Is it true that the chairman of the FDIC's own computer was accessed by this foreign entity?
Sir, that's my understanding.
That's your understanding. And again, this is in an IG report?
Sir, there are actually, well, I believe the document that you've got is an IG report.
Okay.
That document was produced to address the FDIC's handling of the incident internally. It's not a technical report.
Okay.
The technical reports would have been prepared by an FDIC contractor that was brought in to study the specific situation. So the question's a technical one. Our report really doesn't get to that. It gets more to the issue of reporting of the incident and the FDIC's handling of the incident than it does the technical aspects.
Okay.
But insofar as you know, yes, the answer to the questions that you're asking is yes, but I don't know the technical details behind some of that.
Mr. Gross, is it true that the foreign entity was China?
Sure, I don't know that to be correct. I can only tell you what I've read in the report. The details surrounding the report, it happened prior to my arrival. I can assure you that if that was to happen today under my watch, I'm a prior military person, and I believe in the command structure. So if there's an incident that occurred in my organization, one, it's my boat. I'm responsible for making sure it's reported and addressed.
Well, I understand that, and I appreciate your response there, but in the report, does it identify anywhere, Mr. Gibson, in the report, does it identify that the foreign entity was indeed China?
No, sir, it does not.
It does not.
We're not authorized to make a specific attribution to any particular actor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gross, regarding this particular incident where supposedly China had access to FDIC computer systems for over a year, which I think would be a very significant issue to maybe have more information on than what we're sharing here today. According to the materials provided to the committee, the FDIC chose to intentionally violate its own policies and procedures and did not notify CERT, the Central National Authority responsible for tracking, analyzing, and coordinating responses to computer security incidents that attack U.S. government systems. Is this true?
Sir, as I said, I've reviewed that report, and it's actually great to kind of draw it at the scale when you look at the APT that you're mentioning here versus an incident where we have trusted employees that left the organization. You can see why we drew the fact that the risk of harm to individuals were low. In this instance, if there was an APT in our environment, we would be taking active steps to address it. But I would have to defer to Mr. Gibson on the specifics that might be contained in the report as to who might have been penetrated or the extent of the penetration into the environment.
Mr. Gibson, can you provide any more enlightenment in whether they followed proper procedures by notifying a foreign entity?
They did not.
They did not. Thank you. Mr. Gross, it's my understanding that one of the steps taken by the FDIC to prevent further breaches was to shut off the use of USB drives on the computers at the FDIC. What percentage of the FDIC employees roughly still have access to their USB drives?
I believe we've reduced that number down to probably less than 50%. We still have a significant number. Our goal is zero. As I said, I've come from other federal agencies, so my goal is to reduce that down to zero. However, we have to work through different business processes that still require the use of that. And what I mean by that is our examiners have a need to exchange information with their 50 different counterparts that they work with in the field. So I can't immediately drive down to zero, but I can assure you and the committee, my goal is to get to zero on use of mobile media within the organization.
So with the 50% that you have disabled, were those the employees that have access to the type of the information that was breached? Or are those the 50% still remaining to be blocked?
The 50% that we have are primarily examiners that work out in the field and other components of the organization that still have an express business requirement for that. The goal, as I said, is zero. In our examiner area, we are actually rolling out technology right now, which we call our ETS system.
Right.
As we roll that out, we will begin to be able to have large numbers of those groups no longer have a need for the use of mobile media. So we're going to do this over time in specific business areas to be able to get to that zero threshold.
So if you had these 50%, I ask it this way, if the 50% you have blocked now was done 6 months ago, would it have prevented these incidents?
I can't say that for certain, sir, because these individuals were in various different parts of the organization. And even, as I said, it was an inadvertent download of the data.
What have you done to prevent it from happening other than the USB drives?
Actually, what we've done to prevent it is we've, one, eliminated the use of mobile media across the organization only to those individuals that require it in order to complete their business processes. In order for those individuals to be able to use the removable media, it requires the approval of their division director.
Okay.
In addition to that, what we're also putting in place is encryption, is that any device that's placed into the machines, once that device is placed in the machine, it will automatically be encrypted. So those mobile devices that we do have in the environment would in fact have encryption, which would enhance the security on those devices if they're lost.
But it would not have prevented these actions from taking place.
I don't believe it would have.
Okay. Mr. Gross, it's interesting that some of these breaches were retroactively reported to Congress. It's clear that the OMB guidance and FSMA state anything over 10,000 instances of PII is to be reported to Congress. We have systems in place to trigger awareness at various government levels. If I go to the bank and withdraw $10,000 of my own money, that is immediately going to be reported. But certain employees at FDIC can download 10,000 individual PIs and it's not flagged. Is that a double standard?
Well, actually, sir, it is flagged. I think we have a best practice in the fact that we're using DLP to identify those instances. Prior to DLP, we would have been unaware that the employees were downloading that.
But there was 10,000 that were breached, that were disclosed or taken, but you did not report those within the 7-day window.
Sir, we don't have relief in reporting. I want to go back to that in that it's not a question of whether or not if it's going to be reported. All incidents within the FDIC are reported. The question is it reported within 7 days, 30 days, or is it reported in an annual FSMA report? So I want to make sure that it's understood is that there's no question about our transparency in reporting. It was in which time frame. And we wanted to draw the scale that we wanted to focus on, is this major? Is this an APT? Is this someone in our system? If we report on incidents that we have deemed as non-major, then we're reporting on everything. And then when we have an APT or a significant event, the risk you run is that these incidents are then lost in the noise. And I would hate to classify any incident as just noise, but we want to make sure that we're focusing our energies and our time around those incidents that pose significant risk of harm to individuals or the organization.
Okay. I have been very lenient with my time, and I will do the same to my good friend from Virginia, Mr. Byer, who is